Hello and welcome back to Pod Popper's Place and another Team Tiny Hop. This month we're working with multiple stamp companies, and that's not a problem for me because I do this all the time. Today I'm using stamps and dies from Tuesday Techniques. This company is new to me and I recently found them online, and so far I'm really happy with it. And then I'm also using a very old Stampin' Up set. I used this floral arrangement earlier to use some metallic watercolors, and I really like how it turned out, but it looks very spring-like, and I wanted to try something different by changing the colors and trying to make it look like fall. I decided to try and stamp this with 4 different colors, and I'm going to use clear embossing powder on all of them except for the last one, which is with Memento ink. At the very end of the video, I will show you all 4 of the designs colored with the same colors, and yet they all look very different because of how I stamped them. It's probably time for me to get a new Memento ink pad, as this one seems to leave fuzzies and then makes my design smear. One thing I've always loved about this Stampin' Up! Paper is that since it is black and white, it is easy to add any ink color, and then you can use it with anything that you would like. I mostly have Spectrum Noir markers, and so I'm using GB 1, 4, and 6 here for the first flower, and I just am showing you how I go around and color these flowers. I won't show you all the coloring because it's nothing special, but this is just the way I blend the colors together, and then I actually go back later in the video and add some more of the GB 6 because it just wasn't dark enough in the center. And then with the blue for the water in the vase, I learned a trick from Sandy Alneck about leaving a white line just inside the edge of the water line, so it kind of gives it that appearance of that glass rim there. So I tried to do that with this coloring. I also like to use the lightest gray, ice gray, it's IG1, to go over some of the glass areas and to give that illusion of a shadow. And then one thing you also need to remember to do when you use embossing powder and you're coloring in is to use a dry cloth to gently press down on top, because sometimes the ink stays on top of the embossing powder and then it's very easy to smear that. Please post a comment if you'd like to know all the Spectrum Noir numbers that I used to color these flowers. I also used a few blender pens from Stampin' Up! As well, and I'd be happy to list those too. So of course I felt I needed some splatter, so I got out my gold shimmer spray and sprayed both the flowers and the background with that. And then I also wanted to get out some dark espresso color and do some splatter with that as well. I didn't do a whole lot on the flowers, just a very light touch to that, but added quite a bit to the background. And of course there are less messy ways to do this, but you know, that's how it is in the craft room. I was going for almost a rustic or mixed media type of look, and so I got out my Tim Holtz dies that have these rough edges. And I did skip 2 sizes when I cut these out so that there was more of the background showing. Plus the stamp I wanted to use was kind of small, and so I needed to go a little bit smaller on the size die I used. One struggle with these old stamps is that they don't fit well into the Stamparatus and they don't stick anymore. I don't know, maybe they were supposed to when they were new, but they don't stick anymore. So I have these glue dots on there, but this one didn't hold the second time I tried to stamp it, and so it went off to the side a little bit, but I actually am okay with how it turned out because it gave me some more area to use to cut out and have a bigger area for the background. I had a little unstamped area showing at the bottom, so I just moved the die up slightly and then just ran the very end through my big shot rather than the whole thing. Then I was still looking for some more texture, so I added 2 embossing folders, different ones for each of the backgrounds. The look is very subtle, but I really like the added texture that it gives. So if you watched my videos at all, you might realize that I really like texture. So as I'm playing around with this, trying to figure out how I want the layout to look, I decided to get out this old Stampin' Up! Paper that has that solid core in it, and I love that it adds texture because you can sand it down. And I use this very old jagged edge cutter tear thing from Stampin' Up, and I tear the edges off. And this thing is super old, but I used to sell Stampin' Up, and so I have this from probably 20 years ago at least, and it's really great for tearing edges. And then, since I needed a little more texture on the background, I got out this Tim Holtz corner die, and I like that if you don't put it all the way to the corner, then you get this rounded edge, and it just gives it this extra added dimension and texture. And I didn't cut it out very well. I had to end up using my pokey tool and a straight knife, X-Acto knife, to cut out the rest of it because it just wasn't quite coming out in some of those areas. If I would have run it through twice or maybe used a shim, it would have been done a much better job. I had hoped to use banner dies and layer those, but they were too short, so I ended up just stamping Truly Grateful and cutting it into a banner myself. So if you aren't already familiar with Team Tiny, we are a small group of crafters who do YouTube videos, but we have less than 1,000 subscribers, and so you do not have to watch any commercials when you watch our videos. So please go along, visit each of the creators on the Hop, and be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. We sure do appreciate it when you do. As I finished putting my card together, I just wanted to note that I kept everything on one layer except for the final panel. I ended up raising that on foam tape. And then I did add some sequins to the front. They are from This Calls for Confetti. It's from a Shaker Bits collection that has bunnies and carrots in it. So I wasn't going to obviously use those, but I did like the little green sequins that it had included in it, and I thought they matched perfectly. Be sure to watch to the end and see all the different variations of the floral bouquet, and tell me which one you like the best in the comments. I'd sure appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again real soon.